Good morning, and thank you for joining us for our latest installment of our Solutions for Success series. My name is Jonathan Hamilton, and I'm the president at Point Alliance. Today, our topic is achieving web content accessibility compliance. And we are joined by Jan and Loveleen, two of our web solution architects, to talk a little more about this topic. For those of you who are not aware, again, in Ontario, we have AODA compliance, or the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. It's actually been around since 2005, and there are some obligations for public organizations and organizations with 20 or more employees to actually file a compliance report or a compliance report update by January 1st, 2021. So some of you will be well versed in what this is. Others may not have had time to look into it. And Jan and Loveleen are going to help share some information about what this means for your public facing websites and what services Point Alliance may be able to provide to assist you with this. But without spoiling any more of their content and their thunder, I will turn it over to Jan and Loveleen.
Good morning, everyone. So as Jonathan mentioned, our topic is achieving web content accessibility compliance. We're going to start with accessibility overview. So what is accessibility? Basically, accessibility is defined in many different ways, but we can think of it as the way of it's the practice of making websites usable for everyone, regardless of ability or disability. When we think about accessibility in general, we are thinking of people with disability, but truly it benefits everyone. Throughout the Western world, about 20% of the people live with some form of disability. That's 1 in 5. And one of the issues that we encounter as website developer, website owner, or business owner is that we don't have any metrics about who comes to our website with disability. So one of the thought we have is, why should I make my website accessible, as there is nobody that comes to my website with disability, or I don't have anyone blind who's coming to my website. But the thing is, there's no way to know. We don't know who comes to our website. So we can refer back to this fact that there's 1 in 5 people with disability, and they might be using our website. So web accessibility encompasses all disabilities that affect access to the web. So we have vision impairment. It's one of the things that we hear the most about people is who are blind or who are screen reader users. We also have people who have low vision or people who are colorblind. On an average, 8% of men have color blindness. For example, if we are making a monitoring system, and if we say everything is good, we are going to show a green dot. And if there is a problem, we are showing a red dot. And we have 2 dots side by side, and we don't know, we don't have any other way except dots to identify this. So people with color blindness have a lot of guesswork to do what's going on within the website. And now we have hearing impairment. We have people who are deaf, who are hard of hearing, and there are different impacts, but the primary impact is video or audios on the website that don't have transcript or captions. We have people with physical or motor impairment. So it can be someone who is paralyzed from the neck down and they can't use a mouse. Or people with cerebral palsy, it can be someone who have a lot of shaking, and when they use the mouse, they don't have fine motor control. Finally, we have people with cognitive or neurological disorder. It can be people with learning impairment or people who have dyslexia, who have trouble reading, or it can be someone who have traumatic brain injury, who has trouble concentrating. And if we have widgets, slide, animation that are going everywhere on our website, that can have really big impact on the way people use our website. So right now we are talking about website, but it applies on the apps as well. This is a bad example of accessibility, and that impacts people with cognitive or neurological disorder. Basically, it's the example of London 2012 Olympic campaigning advertisement. It's a video available on YouTube. I'm not going to play it right now. The video contained lots of fast movements or flashing animations, and which may cause epileptic seizures to people who are sensitive. I believe this ad was removed fairly quickly after the incidents were reported. So therefore, we should always try to avoid content which has a lot of animations or flashing colors or movements. Accessibility is good for everyone. It's as simple as that. When we talk about accessibility, we will be referring to WCAG or WCAG. It stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. It's the standards that are being used across the world. And we are talking about something that's provided by W3C. It's a standard and it's a bit complex. WCAG has 3 levels: level A, level AA, level AAA, and it's further broken into 4 principles, and then 12 guidelines, and then 61 success criteria and lots of techniques. Level A is the most basic level of accessibility. Level AA is the level generally at which government organization and laws refer to, and it's something that we should comply to. And levels are further broken into 4 principles, and we can remember them by the word POUR. P stands for perceivable. It means that we are able to discern the information directly through browser or assistive technologies. O stands for operable. We have to be able to interact with controls or dynamic elements on the page like buttons or form with mouse or a keyboard. U stands for understandable, that we not only perceive the information but also comprehend the information that's available on the website. R stands for robust. It means that content can be accessed by old and new user agents and assistive technologies. And to help improve conditions for nearly 2 million Ontarians with disability, a law was passed in 2005. It was called the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act, also known as AODA, and the purpose of the act was to achieve a fully accessible Ontario. And the question is, who must comply? By law, if someone has a private or non-profit organization with 50+ employees or a public sector organization, these websites must meet the accessibility requirements. Compliance deadline. As per the AODA Act, everyone in the province deserves equal access to information and services, and beginning January 2021, all public websites and web content posted after January 1st, 2012 must meet WCAG level AA. We understand it's a crucial time and we are here to help. And another thing that I want to mention is if it's an internal website, then we don't need to make it accessible.
Loveleen, what
Yes.
happens to content that was posted prior to January 1st, 2012?
We don't have to modify the content posted before 2012, but if asked, we will need to work with individual to provide the alternate formats such as Braille or large print. But otherwise, we don't need to modify the content before 2012.
Thank you.
These are some of the tips for meeting level AA. Readability. All web content should aim for reading level of 12-year-old. So learning disabilities which impact reading levels are one of the most common type of disabilities among Canadian youth. And using basic language on our website also help those whose first language is not English or French. So we should always make sure the content is plain and informal, and we should keep sentences short and write in an active voice. Then headings. Heading tags are crucial for use with assistive technologies. Like screen readers, rely on heading tags to scan a website and understand the structure. So using the correct tags allows us to quickly navigate a website and create the hierarchy of the content. images on the website, all images must contain alternative text, must make sure that all images contain the alt text. It's important for people who use screen reader. Alt text explains the content and context of the image. And also another thing, we should avoid embedding text inside the images because that's not accessible by screen readers. And then links. We should use phrases for link rather than hyperlink text. Canadians who use screen readers often navigate from link to link on a page, which means hyperlink text cannot be presented out of context. For example, if there is a link that says click here, it doesn't tell the user where those links actually lead us. But instead, if we use the link as learn more about level AA or learn more about WCAG, it tells the user what to expect on the next page. So we should always try to use phrases for link rather than just hyperlink text itself. Audios and video. Captions are a must. As we discussed earlier, that people who are hard of hearing, it might be difficult for them to understand the videos or audios. So in that way, we are excluding over 3 million Canadians. Videos and captions aid deaf or hard of hearing Canadians to watch video content and read along the same time. Similarly, transcripts enable podcasts to be read, ensure your audience stays up to date with your content. Another guideline to meet at level A and level AA is pre-recorded audio description track for your videos. So non-sighted users can understand the actions without the video as well as dialogue. Colors. This is also a very important tip that we need to make sure that that's there to meet level AA. Color contrast, foreground and background colors must have 4.5 to 1 contrast ratio. Because many Canadians that live with color blindness or low vision cannot recognize the colors properly. So in order to meet level AA guidelines, foreground and background colors need to have 4.5 to 1 contrast ratio. But if the contrast ratio is not met, adjustments may be necessary for your brand palette. For example, if the background is light gray and the foreground color is dark gray, it may not be really visible to people with color blindness. So we might consider changing the brand palette. And talking about penalties for not meeting accessibility guidelines, the Ontario government is not taking these accessibility standards very lightly, and organizations that fail to comply with January 1st, 2021 deadline could face a fine of up to $50,000 for each day or part of day on which offense occurs or continues to occur. And if the party is a corporation, they can expect a fine of up to $100,000 each day or part of day on which the offense occurs or continues to occur. And this include private websites, non-profit organization, municipalities, government websites, educational website, hospitals, offices, retail stores, and manufacturing websites. These are some of the tips that are provided by WCAG for testing your website. And we can do automatic testing, manual testing, and user testing. We can do automatic testing by using some assistive technology like screen readers, or there are some tools provided to flag any issues that may not have been resolved. And user testing, if possible, we can ask people with disability to test our new or refreshed website before we launch. And manual testing is we can do it ourselves. I'm going to cover in more detail in next slides. Automatic testing, it's quick, it's good, and not all the errors need human eye to look at it. It can help us review hundreds of pages at the same time. On the other hand, it's incomplete. We cannot always rely on automatic testing. It can tell us if the image has alternate text or not, but it cannot tell us if the text was appropriate. In that case, we will always need to exercise our human judgment. And for example, if we need to check the color contrast, then automatic testing is a great way. We can use the tools and it can recommend us what colors to use and if the contrast ratio is good or not. Manual testing. In this testing, we are going to exercise our human judgment in what is good and what is bad. It's slower, and sometimes it can take a whole day to analyze a page and figure out the issues. User testing, as we discussed in earlier, we can always involve the real user who have disability and discover the things that a tester might have missed. And there are some online available tools that we can always use for automatic testing. Lighthouse, it's a tool that's provided by Google Chrome. And there are another wave evaluation tool and accessibility tools. These are quite effective, but the thing is they test one page at a time. So, and as I mentioned earlier, we should not always rely on automatic testing. And for manual testing, we can use screen readers or keyboards or color contrast analyzer that's provided by WebAIM. When I talk about keyboard, the idea is that all the functionality that we access by mouse should be available by keyboard as well. Designing for accessibility. Accessibility should not start at end. It should be planned ahead at the start of the project. So if we are making a new website from scratch, we can always come back to these factors that we might consider when designing for accessibility. Responsive design is a must. And choosing colors carefully. The color contrast ratio that I mentioned, we need to make sure that it's there. And handling typography with care. And then the forms should be clear, organized, and easy. And touch targets should be easy to touch. And we should keep it simple when using motion. We should not have too much animations or motion going on the website. And these are the example websites that we can refer back for accessibility rules and guidelines. The first one is WebAIM and another one is W3org. We can always go back and check out the rules. And any questions?
Lovely. One question. For the buttons that lead you to somewhere, such as a Learn More button, what would you recommend for the text for that or the context for that? So you have a Learn More button that's below, say, a paragraph. Would you recommend extra text on that button if the context is in the paragraph above it?
Yes, definitely. It should always tell the user in advance where the user will lead to. For example, we have a link here on the screen, events. We can say learn more about events. So user will know beforehand where the user is actually going with the link instead of just learn more.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. So if anybody has any questions afterwards, we can always be contacted. We've done a number of sites already, so we're certainly able to help anybody out who needs to be able to achieve accessibility compliance before the next year at the beginning. Somebody else just asked a question. How do we know what level of AAA compliance we need to achieve? AAA is not mandatory, but the AODA guidelines will specify what those values are. The WA is the minimum mandatory guideline achievement. But Wern, if you'd give us a call later, we can help you out with that.